Welcome to Spotlight TV. My name is Emily Zubi, and I am your host. And we're so happy and honored to be in partnership with community newspapers and are here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Today, we have Lorenzo Valcarel. This is a very special person to me. Not only is he the CEO of the Gypsum Board Art Institute, he is a fractional COO for Miami Women Who Rock and the Zubi Group. He also owns 3 other companies, including senior care for the elderly, business that he's very passionate about. And I saw him. He happens to be not only my best friend, he is my brother and was there at the beginning when I started Miami Women Who Rock. And I'm a visionary. So as we learned last week with Liz Mershon and the Profit Recipe, as a visionary, you have to surround yourself with individuals that can take a look at the operations and the other pieces of your business. So without further ado, I introduce you to Lorenzo Valcarel. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks, Emily, for inviting me here. I feel very humble and also proud of you, what you're doing here. So.
Well, you know, I admire your skills, and there's something about genetics, but there's also something about genetics, right?
Okay.
Because you could be siblings, but yet be so different. And you are
right.
typically a behind the curtain type of person. So,
Right.
you know, today we're putting you on the spotlight. And I really want to start with the Gypsum Board Institute, because this is a business that you have grown into. You know, at one point before the hurricane in Puerto Rico, you had 8 campuses and endured your own loss as the hurricane hit. But the whole idea of education is really important to you. So let's start with that.
Sure. I mean, I have a partner with the Gypsum Board Institute, and he worked more in construction. I was working more in educational, and we kind of just joined teams, and we thought it would be great. You know, there was no such a school, you know, training people with drywall, which is a gypsum board. So we came up with the idea, and in 3 months, take a short course, and it's been very liked by everybody. I mean, we've basically showed many students, how to defend themselves taking a course.
What's interesting about that is I've seen it is I saw it from beginning to end. I remember being there when you first launched your first campus. But after the hurricane, there were doctors who actually went and got licensed at your schools because they needed to rebuild their own homes. So explain the licensing process. Like, they walk away with not only a tool set, but a license to do gypsum board.
Well, they receive credentials, basically. We also are sponsors of NCCER, which basically is educational for construction. And they receive national credentials that could serve them to work any other place. And like you said, we also have police that, they needed another income.
Amazing.
So some people took training, for another income, and some just to do work at their home and use drywall.
That's wonderful.
It has turned into, besides drywall, now we're taking other parts of construction too, working with...
You've had to pivot. And that's what I have seen you do really well. And I learn from you all the time because I watch you in admiration, and you have certain skills that I do not possess. So I'm always watching to see how you handle things. And one thing you're really, really good at is managing money. Now, I call him the franchise king because many years ago, you had your franchise business. Not only did you launch one, but you were the franchise king who would go into different franchises, and you could spot within, I don't know, $1 if there was anything wrong with the books, and were able to bring, the balance sheets. Talk about that beginning.
Well, I had kind of worked in the industry for like 20 years in the restaurant industry. That's where I picked up and learned most about franchise. And we did open some franchises, and I was doing some restaurant consulting. So that was another part of also of how I got to know and work so much and analyze. That's where we are a lot different. You're up there in front, I'm in the back basically, doing the numbers and making sure everything is right and makes profit. So
I love that about you, because you are not only an operations person, but you are systems and analytics, and
Yes.
and you have a way of systematizing everything. So we've been working together the last 2 weeks, and I told him I really needed to help. Next year is a landmark year for Miami Women Who Rock and the Zubi group and my companies, and I really needed the help to take it to the next level, to develop systems and process and all those things. And we've been working really hard the last 2 weeks.
That's true.
This is kind of a break.
Right. It is good.
So one of the things that we did while you were here was attend the opening of the Belmont Senior Living Village.
Right.
And you have experience in that as well. That's one of your businesses, a
Right.
senior living home. And I know that you do it from a place of love. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, that's another. I was very impressed with the Belmont Living. It's not, it's way up there. We do. I do have a. We do have a facility. We have like 25 elderly people, and it is kind of hard to see, what aging does to us if we don't take care of our minds, we don't take care of our bodies. Some of them are in conditions that they really need loving. The family sometimes abandons them. So it's kind of, it's not only a money thing to make more income. It's also something you're serving people and helping the elderly. They basically turn into children, when the years come by. So it is kind of a hard feeling and a little bit hard to see how they deteriorate. So
it's really loving. I mean, I've always try to go to Puerto Rico once a year, and always went around Father's Day and had the honor of seeing you in your daily operations at the home.
Right.
And, a lot of these elderly men thought they thought you were their son coming to visit them.
Exactly.
And you came with your little shaver. Right. And you were going to give them all haircuts. Yeah. And they just looked at you and let you, they want that loving.
It's true. I mean, sometimes when I'm giving them the haircuts, they say, make sure I don't want to look like you, watch how you cut the hair. So, yeah, but it's also something nice to, you feel that love and the love they need. It's sometimes I feel more blessed than they do, by doing it. Yeah.
Aging parents, I mean, if you're lucky enough to have your parents alive, we both lost our parents, but if you're lucky enough to have your parents alive, it's such a blessing. But there's no doubt, I mean, we don't talk a lot about Alzheimer's, but it is, I know Belmont's going to have 2 levels of memory care facilities.
That's so good.
And I was so impressed with that. I mean, the palace is beautiful. You also visited the palace.
That's true.
But the memory care facility, to be able to have some place in our neighborhood, that in our community that can serve, because you just don't know. And Alzheimer's, I mean, I think it's by far, I mean, I support a lot of causes, but Alzheimer's, I mean, it's a horrible trick on, to die without your memories, I think is just the saddest thing of all. And we both experienced that with both our parents. So
right.
it touches home.
Exactly.
So let's talk about you, Lorenzo, the man.
Well, I'm a man of faith, and I appreciate you put me here. But the truth is that everything that I have received, I am so grateful. My favorite book is the Bible, because I think that's our manual of operation. The same you would have a book for manual operation for a car from the person who built the car, who made the car, and you need any kind of issue, anything you need, you will go to the manual of operation to look at it. To me, the Bible is our manual of operation. And, the Word tells us that whatever we do, whether in words or in our actions, we have to, put Jesus first, and and be thankful. And the gratitude and the reason that moves me more is because I'm so grateful for God putting me in these positions in which I could serve Him, and He's blessed me in so many ways, and my life would not be the same if it wasn't for Him, and I recognize that, And that what motivates me to, to help in the schools. We're helping the students, and in the elderly home, we're also, helping. It's about serving, not serving ourselves. And the more we bless others, it seems the more we get blessed. So that's kind of my what moves me, and what I feel. There's lots of positions, and sometimes business, money, but the Word does tell us that what you could profit, but what good is the profit and win the world if you lose your soul? So that's my pushing my mindset. Yes.
One of my favorite quotes is, we make a living by what we earn, and we build a life by what we give. And I too believe in service and giving back, and it's not something we grew up with, but it is something that over the years, in giving, I receive so much more the smiles on people's faces, or and really the biggest gift of all is the ones that they don't know you're doing it, and to have the humility to be giving it without recognition. I mean, that was something my mother-in-law, Zubi Zareta, she was famous for.
Right.
She used to give silently. And, there were families that would come in from Cuba, and, they would have new living room sets and everything set up, and she would do it. And no one had to know that it was coming from her, and that's how she gave. And I learned a lot from that. So let's talk about your routine, because he's had me working out my muscles.
Yeah.
So it's so important. We're doing our Book of Leaders next year. And one of the things that I notice with leaders is leaders have routines, and they have certain routines that are about health. The average leader, gets up early in the morning and has a routine. Talk to us about, how much of that lays into your leadership, and, just health in general. How do you keep motivated to go to the gym and work out?
Well, I mean, early age, about 18, I had joined the Army, and I became a sergeant in the Army. And you kind of learn a lot of, the Army does show you about leadership. It shows you that you have to be united. A leader doesn't know it all and has to depend on people who know, or in the areas of their weakness. They have to, like I say, a leadership doesn't know it all. And sometimes, you have to find the people who's strong in your weaknesses. So, and a leader also has to go and follow by example. It's not, and one thing they show you in the Army, in order to give orders, you have to learn to take them first. So
it's so funny. In all these times that we have some pretty heavy conversations, you and I, and we call them powwows, but we have never talked about your time in the Army.
I
almost forget that you served, but yes, you served our country, and you were there. You were young when you went to the Army.
18 and went to Germany. It was a great experience, and you learn a lot of leadership. The Army does show you. So that's part of my experience, I would say.
That's wonderful. Following orders, I probably can learn a little bit about.
You got to learn to take them before you could.
Before you can
give them out.
You can give them. Let's talk a little bit about where you are now, because you've come here, and like I've said, in the last 2 weeks have been our fractional COO and taken a look at operations and so forth, and that seems to be a real need, not only in Miami but all over the world. You have seen this influx. I'll never forget the first time I ever had a conversation was with Armando Benitez, who, he introduced me to that word, and he said fractional. I said, well, what does that do? And he goes, well, some companies now can't necessarily afford a full-time either CEO or COO or CMA, a chief marketing officer, and so they get a piece of one, and that's what a fractional COO is. And since that conversation with him, it's come up everywhere I go. So talk to me a little bit about just kind of your operations experience, and what's the first thing that you look at? Like, say, you're looking at Miami. No, let's stay away from Miami. But when you're looking at a business, like even in this elderly home, you've invested in a lot of businesses.
Right.
What's the first thing you look at to see the health of a company?
Well, I'm looking at the profits to see, where you could always improve, and to make any type of improvement, you have to have some tools to be able to measure and check what are your costs and what and your income, and basically you have to be analyzing. And I always take a look at companies, to make any type of decision. Every company or any business you to open, there are risks. Now, what is the percentage of the risk? That's when if I see like a 75% of a risk, then it's a company I might go. If I see 50, I'll be thinking about it and looking at the numbers. So I look at the risk factor, how the company is making profit, and then the income and the expenses, and I try to analyze and I break it down, and that basically tells me, if the company's healthy or not. And you got to have a certain amount of controls. So I'm kind of, I know you have to make risk, and I know you're risky on many things, but I'd like to, make the least risk possible, even though you have to make some risk. So, maybe a 75 or 25% of risk is.
Okay. And what's the biggest mistake that you see when you're taking a look at these businesses? What do you think is the most common mistake that, business owners make?
Well, it's basically the lack of controls, and looking at the numbers and making, I see lots of times they make a budget, but they don't follow the budget. It's just on a paper, and it's taking actions of what you see needs to improve. So I see that many companies will, they'll be making projections, and when you look at the projections, they were way far off, and the budget is way far off. So you got to try to stay there and make sure that you spend less than you make.
Uh-huh. And what's the biggest piece of advice that you would give a business, like any business that's in a position of growing, and especially staffing? Because what I have seen is I've met, you have a pretty big team, and it's managing a lot of personalities.
Right.
And, I at one point had 40 employees, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I don't think people management is necessarily my forte. I mean, I remember getting them massages and, having Friday spa day, and, it was just my management style. But what would you say is that advice that you would give to, businesses, especially when you're talking about staffing and hiring and managing different personalities? Because I know you have a lot of personalities to manage.
That is true. We have different people working, and I think it's motivating. Have them feel, good where they're working at. When you're working with staff, you treat people the way you want to be treated, is basically I say. So you keep people motivated, you teach them, you mentor them, and the leaders are only as good as their team is. So, as their weakest, like they say, there's the weakest chain. The rope is or the chain is as strong as its weakest chain. So you have to work with the people, and work in, like I say, a godly manner. Try to, mentor them and teach them and respect. Sometimes you hear, I always speak when I'm interviewing somebody is, why did you leave the company? Mm-hmm. And, sometimes they talk bad about the company. Sometimes they might be right, but mm-hmm. It's working with the team and, trying to lift the team up, I would say.
You mentioned mentoring, and I think mentoring is so important. And I'll never forget about 3 years ago, we were doing our inaugural Rising Star Awards.
Right.
It was at the Biscayne Bay Yacht Club.
Right.
And we were honoring, people, amazing people in the community, and rising stars. And you looked at me and you said to me, now what? And I said, now what? He goes, now that you've honored these rising stars, you've got to build something for them. And you planted that seed, and so did Marile Lopez and Ariel Penzer Milgram, who's the youngest person we've ever honored. But, really, now that's turned into what we call the YPP Circle. And last night we had our event.
They were great. I loved it. I enjoyed myself too. So,
yeah, and they're an energetic, group. Many of them are millennials. Some of them, Gen Z. I mean, I kind of gotten but that under 40 group, trying to keep them engaged. It's been a learning process.
Right.
I can't say that it came natural to me, and I've really relied. What we did, as you saw last night, is we appointed a president each year. So
Right.
Megan Conley Bertolins was the year before, and this year it's Paolo Silveira from Miami Alkaline Water.
Right.
And really, I mentor them, but they really take the leadership of the group. And it's really wonderful because they speak the same language, and I'm learning. They keep me on my toes.
Yeah, I mean that's when I was learning how you were processing the Miami Woman of Rock, I thought it was so admirable the way they're working as a platform and empowering these women by mentoring each other. And like I say, you see different talents, and one helps the other, one shows the other, and I think it's a great platform that you have made, and I'm so proud of you for that. So
Thank you.
Good
so
job.
if you're just joining us, we have Lorenzo Valcarel. He's the CEO of Gypsum Board Institute. He's a fractional COO, Miami Women Who Rock, and the Zubi Group. He owns several companies. He's a serial entrepreneur, and we're getting a little bit behind the scenes in the spotlight as to how he thinks and how he helps different businesses. Let's step back a second, and I want you, and I've seen you watch a lot of my interviews, so
Right.
and given me feedback, but that one question that I always love to ask is, what
Right.
would you tell your younger self? And you've had a couple weeks to think about it.
Yeah, I should have known you were going to ask me that because I'd seen it. But, it's a great question. I think that, if I was to go back in time, that's like Back to the Future, and talk to myself, I see that there's a lot of things I could tell myself. They're mistakes because I've made tons of mistakes. But the thing is that if I was to go back, I might not make those mistakes, but I still will make other mistakes because, life is a roller coaster. It's an up and down, and we learn. And there's so many situations that come to us, and I would just tell myself, the first thing I would have said, follow Jesus. Try to, you want to make a right decision, look for his direction. Grab that book and learn. And make the decisions according to what the Bible teaches us. That would be one thing. And the other thing I would tell myself, enjoy the ride. I was such a worrier sometimes and worried about this and not enjoying, even the troublesomes that come to us, the storms. You're going to come out of it, especially when your faith is, because we have limits, but God doesn't have any limits. So when you depend on God and knowing that he has nothing and everything is possible through him, just start enjoying the ride. And when things don't go well, it's because God has a better plan for us. So enjoy the ride.
That faith is admirable. And it's funny because I always say what I would tell my younger self is, be happy, don't worry. And, I would never have thought that would be your answer. But I think, I've often said that I quit the Wednesday Worry Club because,
Right.
I was such a worrier as a kid and, worried. And when you're living in the anxiety of the future or the devastation of the past and stuck there, you can't enjoy the biggest gift life has to offer, which is the present. Exactly. And, being able to stay in the moment. I don't know if if you've seen Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, but the one thing I admire a lot of things. Not only is she a woman who has made history and we've honored her, but she is such a mindfulness person that she has this calm right before she goes on stage, and is that woman who I admire, being able to stay in the moment and get centered and then go out. And she's such a leader. But I love that. I mean, I just, as a woman, I think, sometimes my mind can race, and I have to work on that, of being able to stay in the moment and be able to get centered and breathe and do all those things that are super important. So
right. I mean, the one of the passions or things I love to do is do the missionary, and we visited in our church to different countries, and you go there to bless other people. We take food and we take clothes and money. But the truth is, the times I visited, I feel more blessed than what we're blessing. I mean, you see, there's so much need, but the people are happy, and it's gratitude to me is really the secret to success. If you're happy with what you have, and when you look at the world, you see so many things are missing. We have what's going on in Ukraine, and you feel so blessed because you're not going through all these things, and there's always space for improvement, and you always want something more. But the truth is, being grateful for what we have is like the secret to success. Every morning you feel great when you start counting your blessings, and that's what keeps me going.
It's so true. I have a gratitude jar.
I know.
And you noticed my gratitude jar.
I loved it.
Which I have to start writing in it again. But that was part of my morning routine. I go for a 4-mile run. I have my morning routine, but gratitude, practicing gratitude, I absolutely agree with you, is such an important part. And you mentioned missions. We also this week had our holiday mix and mingle with the Founder Circle. Right. And our Founder Circle is, they're the wind, and I say this, the wind beneath my wings. These women, we started in 2018, and they are some of the most philanthropic women here in our community. And I'm so proud of them, and I learn from them every day. But one of the ones that you met, who is maybe newer to the circle, is Tatiana Arteaga, who, was a licensed doctor. She doesn't practice anymore, but she just came back with Joseph from Angels for Humanity, and they spent 5 days traveling different countries, bringing toys, groceries.
I was so impressed with
clean water. We complain about, we're blessed. We have clean water, but even some of the most basic of life's needs, these kids don't have, and it just warms my heart to see these women go and do that. I've always wanted to go on mission. I've never, I've had some health issues, so I haven't, been able to, but it is definitely something in the next year that I want to do.
It is. You feel so blessed, and the thing is, we could have possessions, money, car, a house, but in 100 years from now, it's not going to matter. It's not going to even be ours. So, we're not going to be able to take anything. So what we take is what we've done, and the way we service people, and I think it's so great. Nothing here is really ours. We call it my car, but in 100 years, it's not going to be your car. Your house is not going to be your house. Someone else is going to be living in it. So the thing is to, what we could do, how we could serve others. That's how we best to be remembered.
So speaking of the future, 10 years from now, where is Lorenzo Valcarel?
Well, hopefully I'll still be, I'll be here, and it'll be basically serving people. That's where I feel more passion. It's given because I'm so grateful for what I've received, and I feel that, that's what we're here for. And the more we give, God says, you're administrating real good. I could give you some more, so you could give it out. And when we don't, I think he has to say, let me hold it, because he's not using it for the right purpose. So, yeah.
Well, you are a man that's guided by your faith and your love, and your ministry, and I admire that. I love it, and you absolutely inspire me. And I just want to see, you're heading back to Puerto Rico in a few days.
Yes.
What are some of the lessons you take back with you?
Well, I was very impressed by all the people that, I've met through you. I see how they're passionate and they're moving, and I'm taking a couple of lessons to work on my passion. Sometimes I've kind of stayed back, and like I say, every morning you have to renew yourself. And sometimes you forget to renew yourself. You forget to count your blessings, and you forget to be working on yourself. I think, I always say education is real important, and I call myself a disciple, or in other words, a student. I think I never stop learning, and everything we go through, you learn. We go through storms, you learn, and it's been a learning experience which I'm going to take to, and also have some great memories with you. So I feel very blessed.
And one of the things you're going to be helping with, you have an assignment, right? So I gave you an assignment that you're going to be working on our app. We have an app next year.
That's in the plans.
And taking a look at an educational platform. And an educational platform is something that you and I have always talked about. I mean, I started training and development on Wall Street.
Right.
So I have a very big training and development background and, want to be able to shelf some of that knowledge, not only for posterity, but for legacy. And that's something that you're going to be helping me with and, you take back and, loved having you on the show. What a way to end the season of Spotlight TV, but with Lorenzo Valcarel. I can't thank you all enough. I can't thank community newspapers. This has been the most exciting time for Spotlight TV, for Miami Women Who Rock, our founder circle, our CEO circle. We'll see you in the new year and same spot, Thursdays, 10 a.m. See you in the new year.